Hey, how you doing today? Bob Brooks here from the Gilly Galoo. Look who we have here again, the Wild Yam.
Hey, everybody.
Jen, welcome to the shop again.
Thanks. Always a pleasure to be here.
You betcha. We always have great times, conversations. We talk about a lot of mutual things, so it's always lots of fun.
Yeah, lots of fun indeed.
And today, we've done a few things. We've been looking at some spring merchandise and things that we have, but we've been talking about when we're out in the birding, let's say. There's also lots of other things that we can identify, and Jen has a YouTube channel. Check out the Wild Yam on YouTube. We'll put that link in, but she also talks about a lot of foraging that she does, and it started out of, you were mentioning, from just wanting to identify things.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you can tell us a little bit about how you went to photography to identify what you were seeing, and then that led to something else. So.
Yeah. So I mean, I've always been interested in the wild outdoors, obviously, and last several years, I've been really into photography and also videography, and I noticed that I had tons and tons of photos of flowers and shrubs and trees and mushrooms, and I started having a little bit of an awakening that maybe I should actually learn to identify these things.
Yeah, right.
Because
see what they're about.
Yeah, see what they're about. There's so many beautiful things out there, and I'm in the woods an awful lot, and in fields and other places in the wild world. So that started a journey for me several years ago to learn more about these things, in particular things that we could eat or use medicinally. So I went on a journey, and it's still an ongoing thing to learn about all these things, and so. I acquired some experience with just going on mushroom forays, and also books and YouTube videos. Of course, YouTube is this great source of information. Well, for the most part.
Yes.
We start into these things, and I started my journey big time. First off, into mushroom foraging, and
right.
So now I can identify these things I've taken photos of. And it's been an awesome experience. And now when I go into the woods, I see my grocery store, not necessarily just the trees and just plants for what they are.
You were mentioning a little bit earlier, and I find that it's interesting. It's a nice segue from habitat creation for our birds and animals and stuff. But certain habitats that you see in the forest relates to what is there to forage, right? So I found that really interesting. So that you not only expand your knowledge base on a particular thing that you see, but if you can identify a particular habitat, you will know what grows there.
Yeah, exactly. So that's sort of another extension of it, especially with mushroom foraging. You have to learn what associations with trees some mushrooms have and whatnot. So I was out on a foray, it was last year, and poking around. I started seeing some plants and trees and even wildlife that I would associate with bog life, and bogs aren't very common in this area of Eastern Ontario. We do have one large bog. But I was starting to notice a few things, and I found some blueberries and other plants that really enjoy acidic soils, and a lot of moose sign, and a lot of interesting birds and things like that. So I started exploring some more, and I actually discovered a secret little bog. So that is actually another bonus of learning the birds, or learning plants or mushrooms, is that you need to know the associations in the environment. What else is there, and I found this bog, and I was so excited. So I've got a nice little spot to go hang out in.
Awesome. We'll talk about that further, about bogs and fens and marshes and swamps and stuff. We tend to cluster those all together into one thing, but
they're different wetland
completely different characteristics, and
they
do different things that attract different plant life and different animal life and bird life and all that kind of stuff. So I should do something about that.
Yeah, that'd be a really good topic to talk about.
I have a really awesome book. It's old, but it talks about all the different characteristics and how they form and stuff, and how it relates to animals in terms of like beaver and what have you and stuff, and how it incorporates. So, but going forward, what we really wanted to kind of throw this out there is that we're wanting to put together a little introduction to identification of various plants and what have you, and inside that identification, when you're out birding, let's say, and you come across something, gives you an opportunity to say, well, yeah, I know what that is, because. So we're gonna put together a little workshop, and we're gonna talk about a lot of different things. So maybe I can talk about the habitat of bogs and fens a little bit, what the differences are, and then you can expand on that when we do that. So if you have any interest in that, certainly take note and keep following us on our various social media platforms, our YouTube channel, Instagram account. We both have all of those things, and under our monikers, as they say. And so a little teaser, maybe, if you started because you wanted to identify things, and then you realized you could eat things, what's the main thing that really sort of anchored you when you were doing through identification? Was it just increasing your knowledge base based on what you had around your property, or what? Maybe just give us a little story on how it captured your attention a little bit.
For sure. I mean, so we have a 170-acre property in Ontario, and I would see lots of interesting things there. And like I said earlier, I wanted to know, what was edible. Like once I started identifying things, like what's edible, what's not, and then I found out there's some medicinal properties to some mushrooms and things like that. So I mean, I wanted to make sure my identification was solid of these things. Because there's lots of things out there that could kill you in the woods or make you terribly ill. So
exactly.
When you start out with these things, you want to start with identification, appreciation, maybe photography, feeling more comfortable with handling different specimens. And then, getting lots of books and some really good online groups to help with identification and stuff like that. So it's just a really kind of a community process in terms of growth when you're learning to identify something new, even like a bird or a plant or mushroom, for example. And the next extension going on to, if you're interested in wild edibles, making sure that you can do it in a safe fashion and getting the knowledgeable people to help you out with that and good information sources. So.
Very cool.
Really, really sparked an interest. And every year I'm finding new species and learning. It's always an ongoing process. And sometimes I have to kind of go back and do a refresher. So this time of year in the springtime, I'm looking for a few things, but I always go back and refresh myself, get more information, more knowledge about what's out there. Because, it's been several months since spring, obviously. And so, even myself, a seasoned sort of forager, has to kind of learn a little bit. And,
you have to get that muscle memory, or
memory
muscle, or however you call it.
Exactly. And train your eyes to see things all the time, because
Right.
it really, when you become a forager or a bird watcher, you're always trained to, you're looking for certain things, and your mind is always on. And so I'll see something, in the spring, looks like a morel, and I'm like, something little brown thing in the woods. I'm just taking a quick peek, and or even like chanterelle season later in the summer here, something yellow on the ground. Oh my gosh, is it a leaf? Is it a chanterelle? Like my brain's always going, to
that's very cool.
train myself to look for things and different bird songs and things like that. And
yeah, because we start right now playing spring bird calls, so we can
train that mind
get
again,
that mind
get that
back.
fresh.
Say, oh yeah, that's what that is. Oh yeah, that's what that is.
Yeah.
And then when you talk about different species and things, so like you were saying about gilled mushrooms as compared to something else, so it's all kind of interconnected. So stay tuned, keep following us. Follow Jen on the Wild Yam on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook page and those kinds of things, and the Gilly Bluebird, and we'll be showcasing this. We'll probably when it would be I know each spring is a little bit different.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So 1st of May-ish is when you can usually start.
Well, last year was quite late, so it's actually end of May that I was pulling off some of the morels and the dryad saddles and things like that. And you can start getting the milkweed a little bit later than that. So we'll have to see how the spring goes. It looks like it's a bit warmer outside, so we might be talking earlier in May. So stay tuned.
We'll get this put together and we can get her done.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming again. I really appreciate you stopping by all the time.
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Have a good day.
Take care, guys.